Greetings to all the students learning from this video class. This is the first session of the paper Immunology and Animal Biotechnology for the 5th semester biotechnology students. In this video session, we are going to learn about the history and scope of the science of immunology. I am Dr. G. Hema, Faculty of Biotechnology at Maharani Science College for Women, Bengaluru. A basic knowledge of postulates of disease occurrence, cell structure, organization of the cells into tissues and organs, a basic knowledge of human or mammalian anatomy and physiology and different types of pathogens will help us to understand the science of immunology better. The different pathogens, I hope the students can recall, will range from prions, viruses, bacteria, fungi, protozoans and even parasites. Immunology is the branch of biology that covers the study of immune system in all organisms. The immune system is that organ system of the vertebrates which protects the host or the individual from different types of invaders and infectious agents. The science immunology or the term immunology has its origin from the Latin word immunis, which literally means exempt. The science started with the observation that people or individuals who are affected by a certain disease or a pathogen once in their lifetime are generally protected from the recurrence of the same disease or infection in their future life. This protection may range from a few months or years to the lifetime of the individual. That means exposure to a pathogen once will generally give a kind of exemption to the individual from the recurrence of the same infection. As such, immunity is a state of being protected from infectious agents. Understanding the history of any area of science will help us to know how the great scientists earlier to us have worked and successfully made great discoveries. It is also a way to express our respect towards the sacrifices and contributions of all those great people who have worked towards the betterment of man's life. Looking at the historical perspective of the science of immunology, the available records date back to almost the 15th century, during which smallpox was still a dreaded disease due to its high rate of mortality as well as disfiguration. During this period, in countries like China and Turkey of Central Asia, people used to follow a crude practice called variolation. In this practice, healthy individuals were made to inhale the powder obtained by drying the pustules of smallpox affected individuals. Sometimes this dried powder was introduced into the healthy individuals through cuts or incisions made in the skin. Though this practice was crude, it was very successful in protecting those healthy individuals from the occurrence of smallpox. This practice of variolation was carried to Europe, particularly England, by the English ambassadors. An English physician by name Edward Jenner worked elaborately on this. Edward Jenner observed that milkmaids were generally protected from smallpox. On careful analysis, he realized that this kind of protection in milkmaids is due to their exposure to cowpox. Cowpox is a variant of smallpox that occurs in cattle and also is a milder version. Based on these observations, Edward Jenner collected the fluid from cowpox pustules and injected into healthy humans, and by doing so he was able to protect those healthy humans from the occurrence of smallpox. This practice gained a lot of acceptance and spread across the continent of Europe. This was actually the first ever known vaccine prepared for protection of individuals. Though the term vaccination was not yet coined, it almost took 100 years later for Louis Pasteur to discover the process of attenuation. Attenuation is a process in which cultures of pathogenic organisms lose their ability to cause the disease. Pasteur observed that cultures of foul cholera bacterium, on being stored for a very long time, lost their virulence. On repeated experimentation, he concluded that cultures of pathogenic organisms lose their virulence or ability to cause the disease on being stored for a long time, on repeated subcultures, or even exposure to chemicals or very high temperatures. He also realized that exposure to such attenuated cultures in healthy individuals gave them protection from the occurrence of the disease for which that pathogen was responsible for. He coined the term vaccine for such attenuated cultures. Pasteur derived this term vaccine from the Latin word vacca, which literally means cow. Pasteur chose this term as a mark of his respect to Edward Jenner, who had worked elaborately with cows and cowpox and also had developed the first vaccination for smallpox. Pasteur extended his work and knowledge to develop successfully a vaccine for the anthrax disease in sheep against the Bacillus anthracis. He also was successful in developing a vaccine for the rabies disease, which was very dreaded at that time. Rabies is a viral disease which is caused when humans are bitten by rabid animals like dogs. As such, Pasteur is considered as the founder of modern immunology. Though the mechanism of this kind of protection, that is the mechanism of immunity and the mechanism of vaccination, were not yet clear at the time of Pasteur, successful discoveries made by next generation of scientists made great contributions to the development of the science of immunology. Vaccination has been used since then to control several diseases in humans as well as animals. In fact, some diseases like smallpox have even been eradicated from the face of earth. There are a number of diseases which can be controlled by vaccination. For example, polio, measles, mumps, diphtheria, hepatitis B, so on. Vaccinations do have certain limitations. One of the risk being risk of failure. Though the risk of failure is very less, still there is a risk. Another important limitation of vaccines is the threat of loss of natural immunity in populations. On eradication of a particular disease, slowly the natural immunity against that particular pathogen is lost in human populations. Suppose if the same pathogen resurfaces again suddenly, then due to the lack of natural immunity in the population, the initial fatality of that pathogen or infection could be very high. Another limitation of vaccines is use of certain chemical components in their preparation, which could be hazardous to human health. Scientists carried out research to understand the mechanism of this immunity. In 1893, Elie Metchnikoff proposed that cells contribute to immunity. He proposed this after he discovered the process of phagocytosis, which was a property of different types of white blood cells. So, according to Elie Metchnikoff, immunity was cellular mediated. Parallelly, another set of scientists like Emil von Behring and Kitasato stated that serum is responsible for the property of immunity. Many scientists following Emil von Behring's and Kitasato's work also isolated active components from the serum of individuals, which were able to show to neutralize toxins, to precipitate viral particles, to precipitate toxins, and even capable of agglutination of bacterial cells. Since these active constituents were isolated from body fluids, immunity was proposed to be humoral in nature. So there came into existence two modes of immunity, namely cellular immunity and humoral immunity. On further analysis and research, it was concluded that both forms of immunity exist, that is cellular immunity and humoral immunity, and also they are closely interrelated and interdependent. In 1930s, Elvin Cabot isolated the immunoglobulin fraction of the serum. Immunoglobulins are also called as antibodies. These are large Y-shaped proteins belonging to the globular class, and these are actually capable of the properties like precipitation of toxins, precipitation of viral particles, or even agglutination of bacterial or microbial cells. Let us look at some more important contributions of scientists to immunology. This list is a never-ending list. Many people have made great contributions. I have listed out a few of those which are very important. Paul Ehrlich showed that antibodies are capable of neutralizing plant-based toxins like ricin. Richard Pfeiffer showed that antibodies can agglutinate bacterial cells. Isidore Vidal made a landmark contribution by devising the first ever antibody-based diagnostic kit. He devised a diagnostic kit for typhoid fever using antibodies. Emil Rose proved that passive immunization, that is, introduction or injection of antibodies isolated from another host or animal body into patients, can help in treating diseases like diphtheria. Paul Ehrlich and Elie Metchnikoff shared Nobel Prize in Medicine for their contributions to immunology and medicine. Another landmark discovery was made by Karl Landsteiner for his discovery of blood groups. The current blood grouping system, ABO blood grouping, which is most widely clinically accepted, was discovered by Karl Landsteiner. Now let us try to understand the scope of immunology. Scope of any science gives us a knowledge of the areas where there is a possibility for more research, discoveries and applications which can benefit mankind in their day-to-day life as well as towards research and development. The study of the different components of immune system itself is a vast area for research and development. Though a lot of research has already been done and many details have been discovered, still this intriguing area is promising. There is a vast amount of diversity that is involved in the recognition between antigens and antibodies as well as different types of cells and the antigens. So understanding these complicated areas could provide us more opportunities for research and development. The study of antigen-antibody interactions, which are highly specific and yet diverse, is another important area for research. Monoclonal antibodies are antibodies which are identical in nature and which are capable of recognizing and interacting with a single epitope of any antigen or a pathogen. Such monoclonal antibodies, which were discovered by Kohler and Milstein, have a lot of practical applications ranging from disease diagnosis, pregnancy determination, dope testing to research and development in the areas of cancer immunotherapy and autoimmune disorders. So the production of these monoclonal antibodies has gained a lot of importance. It has revolutionized the treatment strategies for several diseases. So this is one important area of where the scope of immunology lies. Another such important area is the production of antisera. So whenever individuals are not capable of having a sufficient immune response to overcome a disease, in such conditions antibodies that are raised in an animal host or another individual are isolated and injected into the patients so that they get protection from the infection. Development, production of vaccines is a vast area for research and development. The initial vaccines were attenuated cultures or heat-killed cultures. Slowly, different other types of vaccines came into existence, like recombinant vaccines, peptide vaccines, and even plant-based vaccines. There is a continuous research and development going on in this area. As and when new diseases surface, vaccines have been developed and used successfully to protect humans as well as animals. Prevention of graft rejection is another important area where immunology needs to be applied. Grafting is the process of organ transplantation, including heart, liver or kidney or any other organ for that matter. The donor organs are actually recognized as foreign bodies by the recipient system, and inherently the body tries to reject these donor organs. To prevent this graft rejection, the immune system has to be suppressed and managed in a way that the individual is protected from diseases and infections. At the same time, the donor organ is also slowly accepted by the host or the recipient. Study of immune responses to different infectious agents is another important area for research and development. As and when new diseases surface, including the recent dengue and COVID-19, scientists try to decipher the mechanism of immune response by the host to these infectious agents. This is very important in developing treatment strategies as well as producing vaccines. Immune deficiency syndromes are a set of symptoms that are displayed by people who lack a sufficient or a proper immune response. And all these set of symptoms are called as a immune deficiency syndrome. Immune deficiencies can be acquired or inherent. An example of a genetically inherited immune deficiency is the severe combined immune deficiency syndrome, and an example for acquired immune deficiency is the HIV/AIDS. So understanding why this kind of immune deficiencies arise is very important in treatment as well as preventing the occurrence of these diseases. Hypersensitivity is a condition where individual shows an inappropriate or exaggerated immune response, which in fact causes trouble or disease condition in the host system itself. So there are different types of hypersensitivity reactions ranging from small or minor allergies to asthma to graft rejection. So understanding the underlying mechanism of these hypersensitivity reactions will enable us to formulate treatment or management strategies for these reactions. Autoimmune disorders are disorders which arise when an individual or a host starts recognizing his own molecules as non-self molecules and initiates an immune response. In such condition, the individual's antibodies or immune cells attack his own or her own tissues and cells and try to destroy them, thinking that they are non-self or foreign particles. Such a condition causes loss of tissue damage to severe symptoms in the host individual. Example of such autoimmune disorders are rheumatoid arthritis and myasthenia gravis. So understanding the mechanism behind these autoimmune conditions will help us try to develop treatment strategies for the affected individuals. Another major area or advancement in the field of immunology is cancer immunotherapy. Cancer is a disease which is generally treated by chemotherapy or radiotherapy, which poses a lot of side effects to the patient, because the cancer chemotherapeutic agents do not directly target the cancer cells. Instead, they also kill the host normal cells also. To prevent these kind of side effects, targeted antibody therapy is designed wherein antibodies which can specifically go and bind to the cancer cells are used as vehicles to deliver the chemotherapeutic molecule or the radiotherapeutic molecule directly to the cancerized tissues. So this is called as cancer immunotherapy. So these are all the major areas where lies a vast scope for research and development. To summarize this session, we learned about what exactly is immunology, what are the different modes or mechanisms of the immune system, what is attenuation, vaccines, antibodies and antigens in this session. We also had a look at some of the major contributions to the field of immunology and what are the opportunities and applications that lie in the future in the area of immunology. These are some very good references which will help the students to understand and know the science of immunology better. Thank you and wish you all happy learning.